Good morning, my friends. My name is Roger, and I am a general researcher. All right? And that's what you should be. You have to be a general researcher. You can't be just one of this and one of that, and I'm a physicist, I'm a biologist, I'm a chemist, I'm a geologist. It just doesn't work that way. In order to understand all of those, you have to understand all of those things in order to understand any one of those things. And I realized this after discovering mud fossils. I was the one that discovered mud fossils. I'll take credit for it because I did. And when I did, I realized what I had, and I figured the world would jump on this like unbelievable. No, this was over 10 years ago. This is biology. This is biology. This is biology. It's a goose. I've had this DNA tested, and it is a human lung. And I drilled into here and got the red blood out of there. This is all certified, no question whatsoever now. And it's available for testing if somebody wants to put up a confrontation about it. Absolutely, I'd love to have that. This is the pleura that coats the lung. This is a giant human fingertip, also DNA tested and CAT scan, both of these were. That's where the bone is. It's a thumb, and it's a left thumb, because the bone is way over here, and this side. Anyway, I believe for sure. Anyway, you can see it in the CAT scan. It's pretty understandable. And this is actually where the fingerprint was. I mean, the fingernail. You know, it's quite eroded, and the apical tuft is here. Everything is here. There's nothing that's missing whatsoever. And it's still not accepted. And this is a goose. It's a goose. And why is this feldspar? Why is all this stuff feldspar? And that's what it is. They say, oh, all rocks are feldspar. It's the most common mineral there is. Of course it is, because it's the coating of all the biology that was around the Earth. Every single bit of this stuff is biology. That's a bone. And what happens is the membrane that coats the bones and so forth turns into feldspar. Feldspar seals the contents. Then the contents turn into other types of things, basalts and all kinds of different names they have for the different transformations of biology. See, this is his neck. That's his neck right there. That was at one time flesh. Flesh and bone and blood and all kinds of stuff in there. And there's his artery right there. Now this side's flat because, again, died in a flood. And all the stuff that I realized was written about this is all true. And we're going to go through all this stuff. And you're going to see it. And I have qualifications that, you know, I didn't have to be trained by anybody. I could train myself, and I did. And I'm going to show you right from the day I started to collect data about what I was doing, and that goes back to when I went in the Army. And I'll show you my scores in the Army and everything. I'm not trying to brag, but you want to put some confidence in me that I have some idea what I'm doing. I did all this stuff, there's no question. And I confronted them from the day I started doing it because it was wrong. There's no such thing as monopole particles in the nucleus. They have to be dipoles, and I show this. I show this very, very, very clearly. Nobody can contest it, and they are not trying to contest it. So if you want to stick with them so that you can go out and say, oh, I went to Yale, oh, I went to Harvard, it doesn't matter. They're not going to teach you the correct stuff until they pay attention to what I'm showing. And they won't pay attention to it because of the Jesus stories and all of the Hindu stories and all of the Uluru is a heart. Uluru is a heart, and I can show that, no question whatsoever. Sleeping Giant, right down the road from Yale University, has ribs sticking out of it. You come up here and watch these things. Most of you people that are going to be listening to me already have been up here and understand that what I'm presenting is very, very hard to dispute. And I back it up by physical evidence. Physical stuff. This is not just, I'm guessing. Look at his feathers. He has feathers in the back of his head. And I mean, this is so covered now, I'm not going to have to keep fighting about this. If you feel that I'm saying something that's wrong, please. This is what this school is going to be about. Because the school is not just you listen to what I say and repeat what I say, or I'm going to fail you. Now, and I'm going to show you why I can say these things. And this is that's the way schools work. Light is nothing like they're talking about. And the people that should be looking into light won't look into it because they say nobody can understand quantum physics. Okay, I just want you to know I am qualified in virtually every area, and I'm just motivated to do it. Army GT score. The GT, if you scored 136 or higher prior to 1980, you accepted as being in the 98th percentile. My score was 139. There it is right there. 139. And these are my discharge papers from 1970. I was in from 68 to 70. Not a good time in Vietnam War, but I was in Alaska servicing Nike Hercules missiles. Thank God. Got lucky. All right, this is when I first had my encounter with physics on the outside of the Army, and I really went deep. I went deeper than anybody. I went deeper than my professor, and he knew it too. He absolutely knew it. And I found out nothing was right. It wasn't right. And the reason it wasn't right is because there's only two types of energies. There's dipole, dipole. That's it. There's no dipole to non-dipole. This just doesn't happen. It's impossible. Transfer of energy is from light to atomic vapor. Photons. This was back in 1970. And I went on, I mean, I went through every single detail that you could possibly go through, every experiment, and I did it all too. I did it with the chemistry, with everything. I went through the biology, I went through the whole 9 yards. So if anybody thinks that I'm not qualified or I have no conclusion, I have no way to make conclusions about this stuff, obviously I do. And I did with the experiments too, trying to understand the difference between, polar molecules and non-polar molecules as far as heat transfer and all this stuff. And every single thing always came down to this right here. Every energy reaction is electric power. Right? Everyone, 100%. All power is electric. It's pushing to shoving of the electrons. So now, if you want to stick around and look into this, because I'm telling you right now, the entire education, 100%, top to bottom, starting with electric everything, and particles, and atomic physics. Space is nothing like they say, absolutely nothing like they're saying. And they should absolutely know this. And I show this over and over and over and over and over, and they hide over and over and over and over. So if you want to just go and get your certificate that you've been indoctrinated, well, good for you. But if you want to come here and do this and join in a community that is interested in understanding what you see, not just being told what to say. And even Professor Shankar said that. He says, he just tell you, you're in a bad position here. You have to say what I tell you to say or you're done. And that's what's happening right now. It's not a good situation. We need a forum that is able to say, okay, you're going to have to explain this. Explain what Roger showed and that it's not right. Let's explain these things. That's all I'm asking for. I could be wrong. But so far, nobody can show that. All they can say is, you're not, whatever. They got all kinds of things to say. But they've never said anything against the presentation of my material evidence. Nobody has. They can't. They can't stand up and speak because they'll just be seen as being silly. That's the problem. Now, if you want to just follow down that path, walk around in circles, spending trillions of dollars to do things that hopefully we should be able to get free energy. That's my hope. Is this? I probably showed you this about 100 times, but that's okay. This is my hope, is to get free energy. And this you could build for almost nothing. And if it gets free energy, I mean, you just drive around for the rest of your life. You never have to pull over and get gas. You never have to do anything, heat your house with electricity. No gas is expended. No radiation, no nothing. It's just using light and splitting it to create a high energy muon particle. And CERN and all of them agree with that. That's all what fusion. This is fusion. I mean fission. That breaks apart the particles. It's fission. Fusion when they come back together. That's what they're trying to do, and we're doing it. And we can focus it into a substrate. So it's time to pay attention to what I'm showing you. And if you don't, nobody's going to pay attention to it, because these people, their jobs depend on them being the authorities. They're going to not be seen as authorities anymore. Now, I just want to show you what's being said in the general mainstream. This is Yale, and this is how I do things. I went through Coursera. I went to all kinds of schools, all top ones, and I had problems with all of them, to be honest with you. And the same thing I have here. This guy I like. He's a nice guy, and he's a smart guy, and there's a ton of his courses on here. And here he is right here. Listen to this.
So I got to start by telling you the syllabus for this term. Not the detailed one, just the big game plan. The game plan is we will do electromagnetic theory. Electromagnetism is a new force that I will introduce to you and go through all the details. And I will do optics. And optics is part of electromagnetism.
All right, that's enough we have to see about this. And he's correct. Magnetism and optics, same sort of thing. And because it's all related to energetic fields. Okay, this is Professor Shankar again. And like I say, this guy's honest, he's true, and listen to what he says.
Day for me, because today we're going to start quantum mechanics, and that's all we'll do till the end of the term. Now, I got bad news and good news. The bad news is that it's a subject that's kind of hard to follow intuitively, and the good news is that nobody can follow it intuitively. Richard Feynman, one of the big figures in physics, used to say no one understands quantum mechanics. So in some sense the pressure is off for you guys, because I don't get it and you don't get it and Feynman doesn't get it. The point is, here's my goal. Right now I am the only one who doesn't understand quantum mechanics. In about 7 days, all of you will be unable to understand quantum mechanics. Then you can go back and spread your ignorance everywhere else.
He's obviously being cute, but nobody does understand it. It's not understand it. It doesn't work. You can't have a big positive and a tiny negative and do all these things you're talking about. It doesn't work. Proton is nothing more than a mass of the tiny negatives. But they're also dipoles. So your proton, instead of being one of these, is a ball of these. But every one of these is an individual that's a dipole. I show this very, 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 very clearly, and I think magnificently, I hope. But he's a good guy. He's a good guy. And he's right. They're all going to be confused. They're going to go back and say, I don't know, cost me 20 grand. Now everybody thinks I'm smart. I have no idea what everybody's talking about. And I'm not kidding you. And I went to the University of Geneva, I don't know, 5, 6 years ago, at least, maybe 7, I don't know. But for particle physics, and showed them our experiments. And hold on a second. Okay, Professor Shankar mentioned that it doesn't make any sense what they're looking at. And the reason is because they think everything is one big gigantic positive and little tiny negatives for the electrons. It's not that way. It's just a ball of these positive and negatives together. And every one of them is exactly one of these, a black and a white together. And they know this at Fermilab. They've seen them. They call them electron neutrinos and muon neutrinos. Electron neutrinos are what we would always consider electron. The muon neutrinos are dark matter. They didn't realize they were attached. They could see them when they smashed them in their atom smashers, but they could just get debris. We squirted these right onto a substrate, so we can see these actual particles manifest themselves and then separate from themselves, which is exactly what they want to see. And this is what we did. Right here, the particles separated, the black from the white. And the whites created the electron showers from the white ball. The black ball, which would have been here, It's just stayed a black ball. It does. We can't get through the Venturi. This is called the Warren effect. It accelerates light, and Rodney Warren designed this, and it's a tuned Venturi. And it ends up separating these two particles, and this is what you get right here. Now, the theory behind this is muons. See it right here? Muons. We created them. Now, they say if you can create muons, you can get free energy. And we did it. And there was no extra energy used. All this is a restriction device that Rod engineered to do this job. All right, so I think we can get free energy. And we can use this spray and spray it into some form of a receiver. You see it? It's coming through here. If we could put a receiver right there and splash all of this on it, just like a solar cell, and bring it down and turn it in, put it in batteries, run cars, whatever you want. Because once you turn it on, it just goes. You don't have to have sunlight, you don't have to have nothing. And it makes no radiation, there's no nothing. All it does is the light breaks and comes back together. That apparently, well, you can look, if you even just think in your own mind what you're seeing here, it started out like this. That's not extremely energetic. It's powerful, yes. But look what happened over here. This is an atomic explosion. You see these white things here? They didn't turn white because they're coming this way. They turned white because of this explosion coming back that way. There's big, I don't know if you can see them, but there's concussion rings way back here. This is a nuclear explosion. It's exactly what it is, and we can control it. Not just have it happen, explode, and make a big ball of explosionness. We can squirt it right onto a substrate and use whatever energy is there. Don't forget, we're going to work this stuff together. We're going to have online demonstrations and forums and talk about who did what and found what. But this is what Rodney did with light. This is a pulse red laser accelerating, splitting the white from the black, which we saw those particles. Higgs fields coming out from that tuned Venturi. Going this way, we're looking into them now, and the Higgs fields are slamming us, and these are what the Higgs fields look like. They're coming out and combining with the dark matter, it looks like to me. Again, this is going to need a lot of research. We got a ton of work to do here, but this is extremely interesting, to me anyway. So if you're interested in this, we're going to do this together. I'm not going to say, hey, you have to do this and write 20 pages about it, and then you'll be smart. No. You're going to find out that learning is a whole different process. Learning is not reading this and then have a guy say, okay, yeah, you read it and you repeated exactly what I said. No, it has nothing to do with that. It has to do with how you interpret what you see. Because everybody's been looking at all this stuff. Not a clue. They're looking at the geology absolutely wrong. Well, you see what they found? Let me show you something about biology. I mean, there is nothing correct at the moment. This is hilarious. Your textbooks are wrong. This is what cells actually look like. And I'll show you. This is what I've been posting about. Well, why history textbooks are a problem. Is most published research wrong? This guy's good. What's wrong with our textbooks? Everything's wrong. They just say, you say what I told you, and then you're smart, and I'll give you an A, and you can go get a job. That's like a slavery system. And you got to pay to become the slave. All right, this is what I scored, was a 139 on a GT score, the general technical score. And here's exactly what it says. If you scored 136 or higher before 1980, Mensa will accept the result as proof of being in the 98th percentile. It was a 139, so I was, that's substantially higher than 136. Now, just because I got a good score on my general testing, I went up and volunteered right after the Tet Offensive started in January 31st. So that's like February 1st. I went up, and a week later, I'm on the train going down to New Jersey. And I said I'll go for 2 years, and that's it. They usually want you to go 3 or 4. And if you sign up for 3 years, they'll give you a school. I said, do whatever you want with me, but I'm only going 2 years. And thank God I didn't end up in that mess. They sent me to Alaska to service Nike Hercules missiles, and thank God. You know, you get lucky even being stupid. So if you got lucky, just thank God, is all I can tell you. Now, this plays right into the Mudfossil's discovery. This is Gokul, and he's going to be talking about what's really inside the cells. It says right here, your textbooks are wrong. This is what cells actually look like. And this is Gokul. All right. Let's see if I can get through this without an advertisement.
I still remember the moment. It's something I will never forget. The hair on my hands just stood up. It's a microscopic universe within each cell.
This is an unprecedented view of the cellular world, where we can actually see immune cells scooping up sugars in the ear of a zebrafish in real time.
Focusing only on the crawling immune cells, we've noticed two classes of them. One was not hungry at all, but it was very active in terms of trying to figure out, what the environment is. There was another one that was kind of slouching around with a lot of food in its belly. We can actually conceptualize and visualize and analyze the contents of each of these cellular compartments in this crawling immune cell as it's kind of, scooping up its environment. I mean, that is a level of details no one's seen before.
All right, this is all about bacteria, enzymes, and invasion of molecules by other molecules with oxidation states that want to deliver stuff and pick stuff up. That's what your body does all day long, every single cell in your body, 100% of them, except maybe your enamel on your teeth or, somewhere here or there. But if it's going to be growing and living, it's going to have trash and it's going to need something to eat. It's as basic as that. And when they show all that stuff going on inside those cells, that's happening because of bacteria, basically. Bacteria is the thing that creates all the enzymes to do whatever chemistry is needed. They're programmed to do that stuff. It's a whole new world right now. That's why we want to just look at this stuff. And I am not going to tell you you have to believe this or believe that. I'm going to say here's what it shows. Totally different, just like you said. Your textbooks are wrong. You see this? They're showing all these powerful bands of auroras traced to planets' powerful auroras. They're high temperature in Jupiter. Well, the reason you get these high pressure zones of auroras is because they're electric fields. They're magnetic fields. And where do you see what we showed? Because we're actually doing the research that they're doing too. But we're doing it with just basic tools. And you'll be able to do it yourself. Just stick around and you're going to see exactly how this is done. Watch this. All right, we're going to be getting deep into this, so I'm not going to go too elaborate now. These are all the particles of gases that are in the air or extra electrons, which is heat. This is the pulse red laser trying to push its way through these. So it's push to shove. I'm pushing, you shoving back. Whenever I shove, I glow. Whenever you push, you glow more. The pusher is usually the one that I give most energy to. The shover isn't much trying to shove back. All right, that's what you got here. Now, it accelerates due to the Venturi. There's light coming all over the place here. You see these fields? They're coming too. But this is the only one we actually can see because it's directly in line with the Venturi. This is the device. Rod Warren designed this, and it works. And that's the particle right there. It splits into individual particles. The black and the white come apart, which is the muon, electron, neutrino. And it's dark matter, and these are Higgs fields, and it's beyond belief at this point. So it's going to take a long time to go through this. Okay, well, I'm pretty sure that these are the same particles they found at Fermilab, a fixed one that doesn't change and a glowy one that changes. There's the glowy, there's the fixed. And that's what they look like as a photon. Each side of this is an electron, but it's called an electron neutrino attached to a muon neutrino. It's like a part of what they call a gluon. But a gluon is nothing more than what we would always call an electron. We always thought an electron was just a negative. It's not. It's a negative with a it's one of these. And the only one that really does any really pushing and shoving is the white one. Well, it's white, but it shows up as whatever color it is. The color indicates the intensity of the spin, and therefore the intensity of the slam. And I show that with the green and the red going through the venturi at the exact same time. So, let's just take one more look at this. Now, everything I have shown you, the experiments with the laser through the venturi, this came from Dylan Carpenter, who is Rod Warren's nephew. And he just sent it to me. He got a new phone, and he said, I was out taking pictures, and I was looking up in the sky, and I took... He said, what do you think? And I said, I think I'm blown away. And that was over a year ago, and I've been trying to study them and figure out, because everything's a dipole. And everything is a dipole. That's just the way it is. I believe this is probably Venus. And you see there's a double field here. You see the big heavy-duty one? And then there's another one coming outside of that one. How does that happen? That's the only time I've ever seen this. And it's because Venus spins backwards and still goes along with us to the right-hand rule as it travels around the sun, but it's spinning backwards as it's going. It's like it's turning its wheels backwards going down the road. And that creates this double magnetic field. I'm almost certain that's what this is, because they should only have one field coming into them. Let me show you another shot. I'll tell you, dude, those boys down under. Now, Rod is in Australia. Dylan is in New Zealand. And we don't really communicate at all, hardly, other than they just send me the information. I go through it and see what I can figure out. Now, look at this. You see this field here? I'm not sure what that is, but there's a planet behind here, I believe, behind our moon, somewhere way out there. But you don't see two fields. You see, you have only one field coming around, going around. There's some other things obscuring the fields. I don't know what the hell it is. It's just anytime you see push to shove, there's interaction with the quantum foam, and that's what Fermilab calls it, the quantum foam. It says it's just there. It's everywhere all the time. You can't get away from it. And this, as we plow through it, it creates these energetic fields. That's what's going on here. But this is not a double field. Remember you saw the other one with a double field? This is just, I've been studying this. I can only spend so much time studying so many things. And this here, I mean, I spent a lot of time. But you can see, basically they're supposed to be like this kind of a field, a little dipole. But when they start interacting with other fields at the same time, some really crazy stuff happens. But whenever you see a black and a white, that's a dipole. Black is the dark matter. Now check this out. This is how we're going to do the research. I'm just going to, I get taken away by things, and I get carried away, and I just jump on them, and I'm going to splay them out there, and then we're going to talk about them, because that's what life is whatever you encounter day by day. So I'm not going to have any strict protocols here. Anyway. And this is very, very interesting. This was not long ago. There was some kind of a craft or something coming through here, and it spit out a blast. And Earth here created some kind of a wave that intercepted that blast. I'm not kidding you. Now, this is Venus. This is Earth. And this was taken by some kind of space crafted. Now, this is some really interesting stuff, and I can't explain it. I'm not going to claim that I can at this point. Whenever a planet is spinning and moving through the arm of the galaxy and circling the sun, all of those things are very interactive. Now, one side is going to be more energetic than the other. You're going to have a dark side and a white side. And that's what you should always have, is a dark and a white. Now, this blew out something that started to create a form. And if you look up, you know, I don't know, I can't remember. I have to see if I can find any links to it. But it was Venus, or it's some kind of a, I've got it down as Venus Comet Blast. But I wanted to see as Venus, because this is Venus. Now, here's what's the really interesting thing. You see how Earth is black and white? This is a normal planet. We're spinning to the right, going around the sun, doing all the stuff correctly, right-hand spin. This is a left-hand spin, but still doing the other things. So it has a white and a black, yes. but then it has another black and a white. That's not right. That's not correct. It's got two fields, and that's why you had the two-field thing. One field was here real strong, and then one of them were way out, came out from the secondary field. To me, that's what I'm seeing. And that's Venus. And I have never seen another one like that. You don't see them like that because it's spinning backwards. Now, these are all things in space that are dipolish. You see all these little black and white things? Now, anything that's out there should have a black and a white to it, basically. I mean, you can see every one of them. Now, this is the one I find really, really interesting. You see how I just drew this on here? This is my whiteboard. All right, now look at this. We're obviously, well, to me it's obvious, spinning this way. And this is the crasher. And it's glowing a little bit. But it was also spitting something out to interact with that emission, headed right at us. Now, that could just be a discharge, like a static discharge. I got too much juice holding on to me. Just like you get static, you go up next to a water pipe, bam! That's what I suspect. Because it did, it shot something down there. And it banged into our atmosphere. Well, we shot something out at it. And that could also be accounted for by an attractive force. So this is shooting down at it, and this is coming back to it to meet it. That's the way I'm going to have to assume it now. That's the only thing I can come up with that makes any sense outside of, aliens. Which I'm not discounting that either. Now, so we're moving this way. Particles are wrapping around us and concussing on the other side. And then you have a completely blank spot here. That's quite interesting to me. I would have to call this some kind of dark matter. You should be able to see these white particles. They're everywhere. I mean, they're everywhere. Why would it just be going there? Something is obscuring those particles. Now, black is black. And that's not black. It's a gray look. Now, but I don't see anything other than the gray here. Not a single taste of any other color there. Of any other glow. But I know that black matter completely obscures. Black does not absorb, it does not emit, and it does not reflect. Hold on one second. Okay, now I'm going to tell you, this is not just fun and games. 100% of every science has to change now. I'm not going to sugarcoat this with anything. This is wrong. The periodic chart's totally wrong. All of these particles are nothing more than accumulations of dipole electrons. And there's no such thing as neutrons. There's no such thing as protons. They're just accumulations of the dipole electrons like this, bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's what creates these fields. And the reason the fields are created because of these push-to-shove events. I push against you, you shove back. That creates a field. Let me show you well, I'll show you. This is nothing more than the same thing as push-to-shove. You see these lines here? They call those interference patterns. And they say there's a double slit. Well, no, there is no double slit. We have a single slit. But it's a venturi. It keeps the black particles from going through, creates a white shower. Well, the white shower is 100% of those particles don't want to be next to each other. So they push to shove, push to shove, push to shove, and they end up creating their own little separate pathways. That's what interference patterns are. They're not a flappy wave going this way and another flappy wave going across it. This is a single slit. Everything has to change. So what I'm getting at is before we go anywhere, you're going to have to understand the nature of matter. And this is the nature of matter, not protons, neutrons, and tiny little electrons. The electrons are dipoles, and they construct everything. And light is really a liquid of these tiny particles. And as it compresses and gets back together, it starts to make atoms and molecules. So we have to redesign this chart. Well, not really. We actually just have to put in new numbers for the atomic weights and particle numbers and so forth. That's all. It's not a big thing. Because this works. Once you get into the above the atomic level and how they combine, it seems to work pretty good. But to get down into the biological realm, and when I say biological realm, if you knew what an enzyme did, you'd blow your mind right out of your head. One enzyme, one single enzyme molecule, uno, can convert hundreds of thousands of other little molecules instantly like that. Boom, done. And convert it into some kind of other chemistry. Hundreds of thousands instantly, boom, done. And that enzyme only gets there because of a bacteria. All right, so if you don't have good bacteria, see how I say all this stuff works together? We're talking about light, and we're talking about, Professor Shankar talking about quantum physics is related to light, is related to heat, is related to energy, is related to matter, is related to all of this stuff, is related to biology. There is nothing that sits alone, my friend. All right, this is why you're going to have to stick with me if you want to get educated. This is a human skull. This is the lip wrinkled back up. It was in some type of chemistry that invaded it and removed all the transition metals. The transition metals are the things that cause the colors. And I will show you opals, because this is nothing more than an opal. But it's a water opal, just like this. This is a heart. This is a water opal heart. I have another one right here that still has a little bit of blood left in it. I'm going to put it in a microscope in a second. We'll take a look at that. I put a little water on it because the water brings out the blood. But this is an opal heart. It's a water opal. It had so much transitioning that it ended up being just pure silicon, basically. The jaw comes right off. It's just exactly. Now, you see all the nerve fibers? Nerve fibers are a little different. They have collagens on them that coat the little nerves. And they have to have them separated from everything else. And that's the only thing that really remains. But you could see it very simple. It's very easy to see. And it's identical. And this thing was on its face like this. The nose was pushed back. The lip was pushed back. I believe this is the cerebellum. Instead of being way back here, it's come forward, see? You see this running up here and all these fibers running up into the brain? There it is. And all of this stuff all over the place. If you go and look at, you can see, I got a bunch of other shots that I'm not going to bother to show you, but you see this here? It's all running up here. This thing, that's it. Nobody made that. Now let me show you what happens in an opal, in a heart. Now I told you this is a heart. That's an opal heart. And this had almost all the blood removed from it, which is all the transition metals. Because that's where the blood sits in the transition metals sit in the blood, all those different colors. Let me show you what happens when it sits in a pool of blood for a very, very, very long time. And the chemistry that allows for this invasion is also in there. You end up having what I will show you. Instead of the heart looking like this, it will look like this. See, this is found near Uluru, which is Ayers Rock over in Australia. And that is a gigantic heart, and all this is blood. That's why they find all the opals there. 95% of the world's opals are found there. And this is the different tissue types. You see this? This is like the ventricle walls, and these little are the heartstrings, I believe. This is the up, and this was down. So it was laying like this. This was down. Now, this greenish, I think, must be a little heavier. And it must have been sort of tipped so that the greenish ran down here and collected. Because otherwise they're all very perfectly organized. But down here there's a little extra green where you wouldn't expect to see it. Anyway, this is what happens in opals. This is the same thing as this. Okay, except this one here didn't have enough blood metals. And here's the blood metals. All right, that's what the heart looks like when you cut it open, a live heart. Now this is going to have, somewhere right up in there is this tubing that did that. And these are the chambers of the heart, and then I have another one here somewhere. You see how it has all that webbing inside of it? Those are the things that don't change, like turn like a hole and be filled with silicates. Those are membrane-ish things. Membranes react differently. This I don't think we'll find anything on. I can't remember now. But this is almost like glass. We'll take a look at it. Okay, you got a lot of plumbing in hearts. And this one here, I'm looking right down into this little area here. Now, what you're seeing is an artery, I believe, which is an arterial area, because it's completely filled with glass now, which is silicates. The other part of the heart is not quite so glassy as the complete opening holes, which are the tubular places that just completely go devoid. You see how the blood is all over the place? But it just washes right out of these tubes. That's why this is just completely glass. Now again, I'm doing this kind of freehand, but this is the other heart. Now this one though I cut. You see, it still have the fascia and stuff on the outside, but inside, you see the inside? It's just all that same webbing and so forth that was that's in a regular heart. You see it? It's exactly the same stuff that I'm just showing you. Now, once again, I go everywhere. This is fascia. Fascia coats all your organs, all your membranes. Now it's considered an organ system within the body because it's a fluid-filled highway. And in that fascia is where all the enzymes and so forth go. And that's what I was showing you with Gokul. And he was saying, look, they go in and they squirt out of these immune cells. That's where the immune cells live. We're going to call it the immunothelium. This guy, Jim Boland, that I was talking with, he understands a lot of this stuff too. And he said, boy, it's like that the epithelium, only maybe you could call it the immunothelium. I said, well, that's good. Let's name it the immunothelium. Because that's where the immune level is, right in that level just below the skin. All right, now, this is, I'm going to see if I can move this around a little bit. You see, this is just nothing more than meat. This is just a chunk of meat. All right, now, it was ripped out. It was ripped out, and that's the little lock. That's that tab that should tab it right into the next organ or the next body part. This little tab right here. I'm going to call that the spur lock. Because I talked to a couple doctors, and I talked to one doctor that said all he knows is it was just called fascia. Nobody's ever talked about these things being locked in to other body parts. Because all your organs are locked in too, with the same exact tab. Exactly the same on the lungs and everything. See, this is how your different parts of your body attach to other parts of your body. Same as like that little spur lock that I told you before. And they also, I believe, through that stem and through the center is where it's the interstitial highway. Or it may just be, somehow it moves the interstitial fluid right through your whole body. Almost instantly. It's very, very fast. Okay, my friends, it's time that you are the ones that are going to have to solve the future issues and problems, because they're not being handled. Now, this just came out in 2022, September. This is about the Alaskan lakes and all of the bubbling hydrogen that's coming up, which is from methane gases. Well, I literally talked to the Russians, I think it was 2015, about their same problems, but theirs were sinkholes, but they were belching these methane gases. And that's what happens. We need to look at these things deeply. I'm not going to tell you anything right now about anything. Well, I told you everything about everything already. So what I want you to do is get your mind rolling. Start thinking. Say, ooh, I remember he said something about that. Start thinking. That's all. You know, I see the avoidance of thinking more than I see the interest. And I don't know why that is. I have no idea. But I'm thinking about it. Now, stay with me. All right, don't pay for the education. You know, what you want to do is do what I did. Get yourself some manuals, you know, just blank ones, and start it out and make sections of what you're looking at: light, geology, space, Mars. But do it nicely. Do a good job. And then and go to Coursera and all these other places, see what they have to say, and then bring that presentation to us on Mudfossil University. Say, oh, I went to there and they said this is this and they said that and that and that. Okay, good. Perfect. Exactly what we want to do. And then you will have some give and take in your understanding. All right, because if you just repeat what you're told, I can guarantee you 100% that almost nothing that you repeat right now in the scientific realm will be correct. Virtually nothing. And if you think you got something, bring it on down. Let's talk about it. We'll do a Zoom on it. If you're a geologist, if you're a physicist, if you are a space guy, come on, let's talk. Because every one of those is based on false premises. And that's why they always go, oh, I wonder where this is. I wonder where the black matter is. I wonder why we can't figure out gravity. I wonder this. I wonder. It goes on forever. And they never will figure it out until they stop and engage with the evidence. So stick around, because that's what I'm an evidence guy. I'm a material-based, scientific, general guy. I just think. I'm not looking for anything. I'm just trying to understand what I see. And if you're in that realm, stay with me. All right, I love you.